The Jezebel does not enter a man's life announcing herself as a threat. She arrives as attraction, as warmth, as possibility. She feels effortless, magnetic, almost natural, and that is why she is effective. She does not need cruelty or overt manipulation. She relies on something far older and more reliable, the untrained male nervous system. She understands, whether consciously or by repetition, that sexual access is not merely physical. It is psychological gravity. Men who have not mastered themselves will quietly reorganize their thoughts, schedules, emotions, and priorities around the hope of being chosen. This is where the confusion begins. She confuses desire with power. Men confuse arousal with meaning. In this dynamic, sex is not intimacy. It is currency. Attention becomes a toll. Flirtation becomes a lever. Warmth is dispensed strategically, then withdrawn just long enough to provoke pursuit. Nothing needs to be promised. Ambiguity is more efficient than commitment. The irregularity is the point. It keeps the nervous system alert, leaning forward, anticipating reward. She does not need to command obedience. She only needs you to want. The moment desire outweighs discipline, hierarchy is established. Power does not come from domination here. It comes from imbalance. The Jezebel tests early, sometimes subtly, sometimes recklessly. The test is not whether you are attracted to her. That is assumed. The test is whether attraction destabilizes you. She watches what happens to your posture when access feels uncertain. Do you rush to clarify? Do you overextend? Do you soften your boundaries to maintain proximity? Every delayed reply, every sudden shift in tone, every moment of closeness followed by distance is not random. It is a measurement. Can you remain centered in her presence, or do you begin to orbit her approval? She thrives in men who are internally vacant, men without a clearly articulated mission, men whose sense of worth is situational rather than anchored, men who have not cultivated stillness in the presence of desire. She does not create this weakness, she reveals it. Yet men tell the story wrong. They label her manipulative, intoxicating, dangerous, as if she cast a spell. The truth is colder and more mechanical. She operates on supply and demand. Undisciplined men oversupply themselves. They offer attention too freely, validation too eagerly, time without discernment, emotional labor without boundaries. Eventually, they offer dignity, quietly, incrementally, in exchange for the possibility of access. This is why she believes she holds power. Not because she seized it, but because it was handed to her without resistance. She mistakes male hunger for male submission. She does not yet understand that hunger is only destructive when it lacks direction. Desire itself is not weakness. Undirected desire is. A man who has not learned to contain his impulses will confuse restraint with repression and obedience with affection. He will believe that wanting less makes him lesser, and so he bows internally long before he ever admits it. The true test was never sexual, it was sovereign. Can you experience desire without obeying it? Can you acknowledge attraction without rearranging your spine around it? Can you remain whole while being wanted or withheld from? The Jezebel watches for collapse, not always consciously, but always accurately. She senses when a man's center of gravity shifts away from his own life and toward her approval, when his tone changes, when his pace quickens, when his silence becomes anxious instead of deliberate. And when that shift happens, the game is already over. Because the moment a man trades self-governance for access, he is no longer choosing. He is negotiating from below. Be sure to watch until the very end to learn how to defend yourself against this archetype of woman. Once desire is activated without discipline, the collapse does not happen all at once. It happens quietly, internally, beneath the surface where men rarely look. Sexual fixation narrows perception. The mind stops scanning the horizon and begins circling a single point. What was once a wide field of priorities, work, health, vision, solitude, shrinks into anticipation. The nervous system becomes alert but unfocused, stimulated but directionless. This is the first fracture. A man still believes he is in control because nothing visible has fallen apart yet. But internally, his center of gravity has shifted. He is no longer acting from intention. He is reacting to stimulus. Desire, when ungoverned, compresses time. Long-term thinking weakens. Consequences feel abstract. The future loses weight. What matters is relief, access, reassurance. This is why men make decisions in this state that contradict their own values. They tolerate disrespect they would never accept elsewhere. They explain themselves unnecessarily. They negotiate boundaries they once held firmly. Sexual arousal does not simply cloud judgment, it reorganizes it. The brain begins justifying behaviors it would condemn under any other condition. This is how men betray themselves without noticing. The psychological trap deepens through validation. What feels like connection is often reinforcement. A smile, a message, a hint of warmth releases dopamine, and the system learns quickly. The man is not addicted to the woman. He is addicted to the signal that he is wanted. When access becomes inconsistent, the craving intensifies. Scarcity amplifies value. The less predictable her attention becomes, the more mental real estate she occupies. This is how emotional leverage forms. Not through force, but through uncertainty. Behavior changes next, subtle at first. A man begins checking his phone more often. He adjusts his tone. He shares more than necessary. He gives before being asked. He waits. He becomes available in ways that weaken his position. The mystery that once made him solid dissolves into transparency. He believes effort will stabilize the situation, not realizing that effort signals instability when it is unreciprocated. This is the degradation phase, not dramatic, gradual, invisible to everyone except those who know what to look for. Resistance at this stage feels like loss. Walking away feels like deprivation rather than choice. Discipline feels like punishment because the nervous system has already been trained to associate restraint with discomfort. Men in this state tell themselves they are being mature, patient, understanding. In reality, they are avoiding the pain of withdrawal. They confuse endurance with strength. They believe staying proves something. It does not. It only prolongs imbalance. The inversion is complete when the man with the strongest desire becomes the weakest participant. The more he wants, the less leverage he has. The more emotionally invested he becomes, the more carefully he must perform. He begins managing impressions instead of directing his life. At this point, the Jezebel does not need to do anything. The system runs itself. His imagination fills in the gaps. His hope does the labor. His fear of losing access keeps him compliant. This is not because men are foolish. It is because most were never taught how to sit inside desire without acting on it. They were taught indulgence or suppression, never command. And so when confronted with sexual tension, they collapse into one of two failures: obsession or avoidance. Both surrender authority. Both make a man governable. By the time he realizes he is diminished, the damage is already internalized. His confidence feels conditional. His sense of self feels fragile. And the most dangerous part is this: he believes the solution lies outside himself. One more conversation, one more explanation, one more moment of access. But power cannot be reclaimed through the same channel it was lost. And until he understands that, he remains trapped in a game he can no longer win. The exit does not begin with rejection, hostility, or emotional armor. It begins with authority, internal, silent, uncompromising. The man who cannot be controlled does not suppress desire, nor does he indulge it blindly. He places it back in its proper role: fuel, not command. Sexual energy is acknowledged, felt fully, and then governed. This is the shift most men never make. They believe power comes from having access or withholding it from others. In reality, power comes from not being moved by access at all. The moment desire stops issuing orders, hierarchy collapses. Reclaiming authority requires stillness under pressure, the ability to feel attraction without reaching for it, to enjoy tension without resolving it prematurely, to let curiosity exist without feeding it with action. This is not passivity, it is control. A man who can sit in desire without seeking relief begins to reverse the imbalance immediately. His nervous system no longer broadcasts need. His presence becomes contained. He does not hurry, does not over-explain, does not chase clarity. He remains anchored in his own rhythm. Detachment is often misunderstood as coldness. It is not. It is clarity without dependence. The uncontrollable man does not withdraw to punish or manipulate. He withdraws because he does not require external validation to remain whole. His boundaries are not reactions, they are defaults. He does not announce them, he enforces them through consistency. Emotional independence collapses manipulation because there is nothing to pull on. No urgency, no hunger for reassurance, no fear of losing what he does not need to survive. In this state, sex returns to its proper place. It is no longer leverage, no longer currency, no longer a test of worth. It becomes expression, mutual, grounded, unnegotiated. Attraction is allowed to exist without distorting behavior. Intimacy is chosen, not chased. The man does not seek access to feel powerful. His power is already established. When access is offered, it is received without self-betrayal. When it is withheld, nothing collapses. This is where the final reversal occurs. The Jezebel's influence depends entirely on urgency. Remove urgency, and the structure dissolves. When access loses its emotional weight, it loses its power. The man who can walk away silently, not out of spite, not out of fear, but out of alignment, becomes ungovernable. His absence is not a tactic. It is a consequence of self-respect. At this level, the woman is no longer the adversary. She never was. The real conflict was always internal. Desire versus discipline, impulse versus command. The Jezebel simply exposed the fault line. Once that line is reinforced, the game ends, not with drama, but with indifference. The truth is precise and uncomfortable. She was never the threat. Your lack of self-governance was. Thus remember, we are Indeceptor. Becoming Indeceptor is the code they never wanted you to learn. A psychological war map for men, forbidden teachings fused with modern strategy for influence, dominance, and self-mastery. If you want peace, prepare for war. The Crusaders Bundle. 4 ruthless lessons. 1 unbreakable code. For a limited time, claim all 4 Indeceptor audiobooks for the price of 3. Step inside the private archive of discipline, power, and psychological warfare, where lust is conquered, the mind is weaponized, and legacy is forged. Don't just listen. Arm yourself. Indeceptions.com